So fortunately, we were able to get a little bit more airtime. However, that did come with extreme barter and a price. So I call it a price, but it was actually a barter. I do a lot of bartering when it comes to this little program that I done came up with. So like a lot of it is not even any type of visible cash exchange or anything like that. A lot of it is just a lot of barters and trade deals. But however, notes do come into play, or what you would call cash. Notes do come into play. The problem with notes is that many people can now use notes in the private sector now. Meaning that private people can use certain Federal Reserve notes and tax on them, depending on the type of equity that they have built up in that particular note. So like say for instance, you see a note with an F on it. That's the Federal Reserve down in Atlanta, right? Or like, you know, it controls Florida, you know, and like Alabama and things of that nature. There's people that can use that Federal Reserve note private, and they get a bunch of those Federal Reserve notes, and they go out and give out loans and things of that nature. And they kind of use them as commodities, I guess you could say. But then there are also people that have to use those same Federal Reserve notes as notes. And that depends on the type of equity that your bloodline or your family may have had in different Federal Reserve banks. Because the Federal Reserve is basically a set of like 12 different banks, as like many of you know. It's like 12 different banks, and they loan different types of loans to different people on different levels. And people don't understand that you can get these loans without ever really speaking to anyone. This is all about knowing how to work in certain areas, in certain regions, and knowing how to invest your commodities, which is going to be your body and your energy, into the right land. So that's what I'm kind of going through now. So what I did was that I was telling you earlier, like, this is serious, man. I'm glad we were able to raise a little airtime, but I mean, I don't know how long it's going to last for, because I still have to raise a little bit more money today, actually. So it's kind of like a campaign in a way, but these motherfuckers, like, what they really did is interesting, because by me being a sovereign, there's several people that kind of just use my identity. They call it using your identity. It's actually, that's what the U.S. stands for. The U.S. really stands for, at this point, using certain commodities and trading off of them without having very little responsibility. So I had many people that do that, man, in reference to my name. So when you hear me talking about all these high figures and you seeing low, kind of like low exposure, it's because these people that was doing this to me are like billionaires, mind you. And they knew about evidence about things that I had invested into in my past life, had several investments in my past life. And they kind of like was a part of a deep conspiracy, actually. And they were able to take some of my investments in the past life, and they still have them. And I found out about this, so it's kind of like a war that's going on. So right now where I'm at, like, I got about $11,000 worth of like I-Visa land here, is what I call it. And then I mean, and further up, I got another $11,000. I mean, it just looks like regular land, as you can kind of see. But my family actually invested a lot of energy into this, and some of them were actually of different nationalities, from like Europeans, got family in Uruguay and things of that nature. So there's a lot of investments involved in this, and it actually ties into some of the secret cloning programs that I was telling you about that actually took place here. So what happened is, I'm gonna try to make this short because I don't want to waste too much airtime. I had to come here to my land to exchange commodities, because where I was just at, see, I was in another state. So I can't even really do an effective acceptance for value program in this state, because this state last night, it was a bet that went on with that Lakers game, right? And the state lost. The other state where I was at, where I did those first two videos, that state lost a whole bunch of money to this state where I'm at, come to find out. And I would have never knew this if I hadn't went on ahead and stayed on my Hajj, my journey to get back to this land. I'm glad I did, because I'm sitting up here losing. I probably lost about a good like $1,200 just recently, even today, because of the fact that the state lost so much money that when I'm trying to do a transaction, even though I'm doing it as a private corporation, come to find out I'm using bandwidth on my phone And bandwidth is controlled by different states. So the bandwidth in that state is in debt, meaning that all the bandwidth is just bouncing like bad checks, right? And I can explain to you how this shit works. It's some deep ass sovereignty shit. So the state itself lost billions of dollars last night. People don't even know this shit. I myself lost a lot of money last night. So I told you I made a lot of money that I lost, but I actually made a profit still. And people don't see that, but I didn't know that I had to see the profit is not even in that state. And that's what I was talking about in the last video. So it's looking like I lost money, but really the money was transferred into another currency that's controlled by this state. So this state where I'm at now has a sovereign currency, actually. And people don't even know this shit. They living right in this state, right? Don't even know they working jobs and shit. Don't even know it's a sovereign currency. Some people do know, like many of the Freemasons and people in different secret societies do know. So what I'm gonna do now is head up here onto this land, and you know, and if everything works out right by the end of the day, and I'm able to keep the airtime going on, and hopefully drop a couple of more to kind of get more in depth. Using myself as an example, but if at some point wanting to take on students and even do classes and lectures and readings to help people to make this situation real for themselves, because I have a program that's set up that could work for any of you. So, meaning that it don't matter what level you're on. No matter if you're a 10-year-old that's got $10 saved up. You can still use this program and eventually become your own king, queen, whatever title you want to use. I mean, right now you're using, most people in these contracts are using what's called like limited liability corporations. So they're responsible and held up under the yoke of a particular state. What I'm trying to teach you is how to move, because if you want to move throughout states, this is getting so deep. Each state has a control, and that's what I talk about in future videos. Each state has like a commodity that it controls. So some states are invested in computers, meaning that you don't know this stuff, but the computer companies and corporations done sold out to these states because these states are going sovereign. So they don't really have to pay as many taxes, right? So what's going on now, if you want to operate totally independent as a national type of corporation, you have to have several agreements with each state that you passing through and doing business in. And that's what happened to me today. I lost a lot of money because of doing this. Crossing water, we're talking about $10,000 certain days a day, just crossing water that they tax me. That people that are corporations don't know about, that have cars and stuff. See, they don't have to worry about this shit because the state takes care of it for them. They don't realize how much it actually costs for one person to do this stuff. So I'll talk about more. I'm gonna go ahead and get this up. Thank you guys for watching. Get up on this land or whatever, so it's like really beautiful, as you can see. And I thank you guys for watching, and I'll go more into it in the next future episodes. Namaste.